All right, so we talked about making paintbrushes or painting with the paintbrush. And I didn't talk about this, but we do have a lot of different paintbrushes that you can use that are already created in Photoshop. And you can actually import ones from the internet. And they'll all do different things, and it's a fantastic world of paintbrushes out there. But I want to talk about how you can create your own custom brush, all right? And I do have the steps kind of written out here to kind of help for a reference. But to start off, we're going to make sure we have layer 1. And we're going to then go ahead and get the marquee tool, and we're going to select around this splatter right here, okay? And so once we have that splatter selected, what we're going to actually do is we're going to go to Edit, and then we're going to come down to Define Brush Preset, okay? We can give it a name, so we'll give this one Splatter, or Splat. How about Splat? All right, and now I can paint. But if I try and paint, you're going to notice that you have an issue because it's not actually letting me paint anywhere except for where that dotted selection is. So I'm going to hit Control D for deselect, okay? And now I can paint anywhere on my screen, but I probably will want to paint onto a new layer because layer 1 has my, I guess layer 1 doesn't have anything. So you can paint on a new layer, you can do whatever you want. Excuse me. So now I can actually start painting with the splatter. But you'll notice that I kind of have some limiting kind of components. It's very like repeated. The pattern is very obvious with it. And let's say I wanted to be able to make it so I could paint out a splatter and have it kind of have some variation to it. To do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Windows, and then I'm going to go to the Brush Settings window, okay? It's going to add this new window to my my settings, okay, on this, or my right-hand toolbar. And so it's going to, by default, have this current brush that I made selected. And now I can start kind of playing around with like, what does my brush, what's it gonna do, okay? So I have a few different things. I have shape dynamics, okay? And so this is gonna be, you know, does the shape stay the same the whole time, or does it kind of change as I paint along? I can choose a minimum diameter with that. And so we have these things called jitter. And so that's the size jitter. And I can also change the angle jitter. And all that's going to do is it's going to change the angle and the size as I paint. Okay. I can also apply a roundness jitter. It's going to make it so that sometimes it's round, sometimes it's like more flattened out, like you can see right there. There's also things like scattering, okay? Scattering is gonna push it, and you can see this little preview here. It's gonna push the brush off of that main axis that I'm painting if I want, okay? And I can also change the count. Do I want it to like really change, you know, how much does it add as I go? Or different things like that. And so jitter is going to be when it basically is going to do more sporadic or less sporadic on any of these, okay? Texture is going to add a texture to it. We don't really want to play around with that. Dual brush, not really that useful for what we're doing, but we can mess around with color dynamics. And what this is going to do is it can be a dynamic where it's going to kind of change up the colors as we go. Now, right now, every time I click, is choosing a new color. And so let me undo those. As I do this, I can actually choose to have, you know, some different jitters on there, activated basically to be able to kind of change that, okay? And so with the color dynamics, if we do apply per tip, it's going to make it so it does it each time it creates a new little spot. So if we had like scattering turned on, you'll see it just cover my screen, okay? So as you kind of mess around with these, you'll start kind of getting a feel for, you know, what these different things will do and how they can actually help your design kind of work as a whole with these custom brushes. So play around with this. You can use any object or any image for a custom brush in Photoshop. And depending on how you use them, you can end up with a pretty cool effect. It does work best when you have a high contrast thing, because it's basically going to convert it to black and white. So you do need a higher contrast to help maximize what you can create.